Welcome back to Dynamics. Okay, so I'm going to do the fourth movie in my four movie binge that I just did. It was a movie called Evil Dead Rise. And so Evil Dead Rise is kind of a reboot of the Evil Dead franchise, which was, a cult horror movie classic that was done by Sam Raimi, and Bruce Campbell is the main actor. They did three movies in that franchise, and I think a TV series or something to that effect. But this is kind of a reboot of that. Sam Raimi is not directing and didn't write this. I think he's a producer on it, and there's definitely some homage paid to him during the course of the movie. But it's not a Sam Raimi movie per se. And then I think Bruce Campbell's also a producer on this movie, but he's not in the movie. So it's a complete reboot. The story doesn't continue on from the other Evil Dead movies, but it's definitely the same concept. The Book of the Dead, and being possessed by these demons, the Deadites or whatever you want to call them. So it's an Evil Dead movie, but a reboot, and it's a lot of fun. They don't quite go as tongue in cheek as Sam Raimi does, so it's not quite as comedy. As much comedy. It's more your traditional horror movie. A lot of gore, a lot of blood. So let me just get that out of the way. This is not a movie for your kids. It's a hard R rating, very violent, very gory. Okay, so this movie, it starts off with a couple of characters that aren't in the rest of the movie. Kind of like a throwback to the cabin scene, the cabin aspect of the original movies. And it's three actors. I think it's Mirabai. I think that's how it's pronounced. Mirabai Peace plays Teresa. Richard Crouchley plays Caleb, and Anna Marie Thomas plays Jessica. These characters are at the very beginning of the movie, and maybe we'll talk about spoilers later. Anyway, so at the very beginning of the movie, those are the characters that you see, and typical, in the cabin, one of them gets possessed, they all die type thing. Okay. The main characters of the actual movie, though, the rest of the movie, are Beth and Ellie. They're two sisters. Lily Sullivan plays Beth. Alyssa Sutherland plays Ellie. And they were kind of estranged a little bit. Not really, but they hadn't talked a lot in recent years. And Lily has found out or Beth has found out that she is pregnant and wants to go visit her sister, for advice and to talk to her sister. Her sister is a mother of three children, and you find out that the father of the three children left Ellie not too long before, and that Ellie had tried to contact Beth to talk to her and have her help her get through the whole situation, and Beth kind of blew her off. Didn't know that they had separated and that he had left. The three kids are Danny, Danny, Bridget, and Cassie. Danny is played by Morgan Davies. Bridget is played by Gabrielle Eccles, and Cassie is played by Neil Fisher. And those are Ellie's three kids. There are a couple other people in the apartment complex who are smaller characters. Jake, who I mentioned just a minute ago, is played by Billy Reynolds McCarthy. Gabriel is played by Jaden Daniels. Scott is played by Ty Wano. Mr. Fonda is played by Mark Mitchinson. Okay, so, but the main four characters in the movie are Beth, Ellie, or five characters: Beth, Ellie, Danny, Bridget, and Cassie. Okay. So, Ellie, like you see this from the trailer, so this is not spoilers. Ellie gets possessed by the Book of the Dead, and in fact, in the trailers, it's focused mostly around Cassie, as Cassie and Beth trying to survive from Ellie. And Cassie is Ellie's youngest daughter, and Beth is her sister, obviously, is Ellie's sister. And so that's what the trailers focus on. Danny and Bridget aren't like focused on in the trailers, and I didn't realize that they were also Ellie's children until you watch the movie. Okay, so let's get to spoilers. So Danny, there's a what they think is an earthquake, and it may have actually been an earthquake. I'm not 100% sure, but there may have been some sort of earthquake. There was damage done to the building, and there was a hole found. The building that they live in is an apartment complex that's being condemned. It used to be a bank before it was an apartment complex, and it's being condemned, and everybody's got to move out. There's only a few people left in the building, and those are the characters I mentioned earlier. And most everybody else in the building has moved out of the building because it's going to be condemned in the next month or so. Okay, so the earthquake happens. A hole is found, and in the hole is the bank vault, or a bank vault. I don't know if it's the only bank vault, but the old building was a bank, and there's a bank vault. In the bank vault, there's security boxes and things like that that have been covered up, I guess. And in one of the security boxes is the Book of the Dead, which Danny finds when we'll say they. Danny is, I believe, supposed to be a male character played by Morgan Davies, who is, I don't want to get into the basically, I think Danny's supposed to be her son, Ellie's son. But they don't really specify, so you don't really know. So Danny is searching around just because Danny's curious with the hole and everything, finds the book. There's some records that go along with the book, and tries to figure out what the book is and what's going on the records. In the midst of that, releases the demons, and then the demon takes over Ellie's body, kills her basically, and takes over her body. Bridget and Cassie are the other kids. And Beth, the sister, and they're all dealing with Ellie when she comes back. She's obviously not the same, and she ends up dying again. And then they find out that she's not really dead, that she's possessed by this demon, and it goes from there. Bridget ends up getting possessed by the demon next. Danny after that. And then other members of the apartment complex are also infected, and the only two that are surviving towards the end of the movie are Beth and Cassie. And they're trying to get out of the apartment complex, but the stairs have collapsed, and the elevator isn't working correctly. And then there's this nice homage to Stephen King's. Why am I forgetting all of a sudden? Red Rum, the hotel movie. Wow, it popped right out of my head. Anyways, the elevator fills with blood, and it hits the bottom floor, and all the blood goes everywhere, and they escape out of there. And then there's this whole fight scene where all the demons merge into this one giant body horror type demon that's chasing after them. And in the end, they're able to get it to fall into a wood chipper and kill it that way, right? So they're able to escape. So Ellie and Cassie make it out, and they are not infected. And they've killed the demon thing. The book is still in the building. The records are still in the building. More shenanigans are going to happen. But as kind of like a closer to the movie, the character from earlier at the very beginning of the movie, Jessica, comes out of the building and is leaving the building and comes across the gruesome scene where the demon has been killed, and then she gets possessed, and then that's what leads to the scenes that happened at the very beginning of the movie. So obviously the story continues on with more people getting possessed and the Book of the Dead continuing on. So I'm sure we're going to get more movies, especially if this one's successful, which I believe it is. They did a good job. It was originally going to go directly to HBO Max, and so even if they don't feel like it did well enough for theaters, they could just release sequels to HBO Max or what's going to be called Max moving forward. But I think it did really well, probably on what was a relatively low budget. It was a high budget for an HBO Max movie, but a low budget for going into theaters, and it probably made its money back and hopefully more. And they make more of these movies because I enjoy this kind of thing. I like a gruesome horror movie, and these possession movies are great. The Evil Dead franchise is great, and this is a wonderful continuation of that, with some tongue-in-cheek aspects to it, but more going in more of a an actual horror gruesome direction. All right. Okay. So I would recommend seeing it if you get a chance. It's going to be in the theaters probably for at least a couple of weeks, I would imagine. I think it's doing well enough that it will be in the theaters for a while. If you like this type of movie, check it out in the theaters. If not, I'm sure it will be on HBO Max relatively shortly. And so definitely check it out there if you get the chance. I recommend watching it. I thought it was really good. And yeah, don't let your kids watch it because it's kids are possessed, kids are killed. There's a lot of violence, a lot of blood. It's definitely an adult audience, and it's good stuff. All right, everybody, take care. Have a good day.